Hello, everyone. My name is Scott Morris. I am the Director of Business Development for Gaming for GTS Distribution, which is a really long and fancy way of saying the game guy. If you are here live, thank you so much for taking the time to come and join us. If you are here watching on YouTube, also thank you for taking the time to come and join us at your leisure. We hope that this is going to be a really fun conversation today because I'm really excited to introduce a brand new partner and a brand new game to our catalog. And I actually have it sitting here right in front of me. It's called Mantis Falls is the game. And the company's name is Distant Rabbit Games. And Julie Beerworth is here. She is one of the owners. And a lot of people come to me, a lot of people come to me asking me, hey, how do I get my game in distribution? Yes, it is a nice small box, Julio. It is. It's a very shelf-friendly box, which is good. And we'll talk about that because there's a pretty big amount of value in this thing. But a lot of people come to me and ask me about, like, how do I choose what games, to pick to put into our catalog? And it's a very, very long process, right? It is not just I've got a great game, I've got it here in America, let's put it in distribution and see how it goes. There's a lot more to it than that. One of the most important things to me personally is business acumen. It's the ability for me to sit down with someone and have a conversation immediately where I can tell they understand the market, they understand the industry, they understand the ups, the downs, the challenges, the positives, not just from the perspective of the publisher, but from the perspective of the retailer, from the perspective of the distributor, and from the perspective of the consumer. And that's not very easy. You would think that it would be very simple to find a lot of people like that, but if that was the case, we'd probably be making like 10 times more than what we're making right now. So it's always a little bit of a challenge. And back in March, as most of you may remember, this is being recorded right now on August 30th, 2021. Back in March, when Gamma happened, it was all online and it was all digital. So it made for, I guess, wonky meetings is the easiest way to describe it. They were a little awkward at times. And I was in a panel with Frank West, who is the owner of City of Games, one of our biggest exclusives. And he had made a mention to me afterwards privately about, smaller companies that he had talked to and met with at the show and things like that he would like us to maybe look at. And then lo and behold, I go back to my digital booth and Julie introduces herself, who is one of those companies. And it's a company called Distant Rabbit Games. And I was immediately enamored by the concept of what she said to me. She said, I have a very unique game, which of course, a lot of people throw that word around. She said, I have a very unique game that is a 2 to 3 player hidden trader game. And my brain just kind of popped. And I went, wait a minute, how does a 2-player trader game work? Because if I'm not the trader and you're only a player, like you're the trader, right? Like, I mean, it's got to work that way. And then it was like, oh no, there may not be a trader. And we started to dig into what this mechanic would be and how it would actually work. And I was blown away by the idea. And then the second thing I did is I went and started doing research because unlike normal gammas where you're sitting there at your booth and you're face to face and in front of each other, I had the luxury of being able to pull up things on my websites. And I pulled up a very interesting fact, and we'll talk about it later, but most Kickstarters, when they have their very first published game as a publisher and their very first Kickstarter, they're usually pushing about 1,500, maybe 2,000 units, and that's pushing it really, really hard. Julie had over 6,600 plus backers. And to me, that's the big number. I don't tend to worry about how much revenue a Kickstarter brings in, because as we all know nowadays, there's a lot of projects that can be over bloated and have just a high amount of cost and look really big, even though there's a low amount of backers to it. I tend to look at what does the actual number of backers say? What is the market looking for? What are things that are going to signify, big green flags for me? So between a lot of business acumen conversations, a lot of obvious preparation and a lot of planning that I could tell that Julie and her partner went through to make this game come to fruition, we were blown away by it. And I really, really loved it. Then I physically got a copy and I played it and I fell in love with it because it is such a deceptively fun game and so much to just not just play once and go, oh, I want to play again, but literally play multiple times in a row, one right after another, and start to have the game almost kind of develop into this own ecosphere, which is so cool. So I don't want to steal too much of the thunder. I've already told you a whole bunch of stuff, but Julie has a whole bunch of things to share with you guys, and I'm really excited about it. As always, if you're here live, you are welcome to ask anything in the chat window. As I always try to joke around and say, everything is on the table, so you're welcome to ask anything you like. I'll be here, of course, to answer any kind of questions as we go along. As I mentioned, Julie, you can play around with that chat window. You don't need to, worry about it too much. But if you do jump in there, since you have experience with that, by all means, feel free to. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give you Julie Beerworth. I'm going to give you Mantis Falls and let her tell you about why this game is awesome and why you should pre-order it right now.
All right, thank you so much. I appreciate that, Scott. Yeah, Scott was a great resource to meet at Gamma. It was our first ever Gamma. We're very new publishers, very excited about this product, and partners like Scott are invaluable to folks like me. So I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about Mantis Falls, but first I'm going to tell you a little bit about us. So we're at Distant Rabbit Games. It's just the two of us. It's my partner, Adrian, who does the game design and graphic design, and myself. I do the illustrations and operations. That's it. We did all our own stuff, our own video, our own website design. Literally all of it is just the two of us, which has been pretty great, actually, in a lot of ways, because it means that we can be, thank you, it means that we can be kind of supple. Anything that we're excited to change, we can change right away. We can bounce ideas off of one another. So it's been really awesome having a team of just us two. The logo, since you asked Julio, or since you said so, when we were first coming up with the game design for Mantis Falls, it's a hidden trader game for 2 players, and we were looking around for what might make a good name for our company, and coming up with lots of combinations of words that sounded interesting. And then Distant Rabbit came up as sort of an idea, and we looked it up, and it was all these forums of people who were complaining that their pet rabbit seemed distant lately. And that was so endearing an idea to me. But then it also really worked with the idea of a 2-player hidden trader game that like one of you is not the trader and is like far off in the distance and is staring and is like ready to bolt at any moment. So yeah, this is us. That's our family at PAX South. That was our first big break for Mantis Falls. We are located in Athens, Georgia. Yes. And we are also a carbon neutral gaming company. So we pay carbon offsets for all of our games and try and keep them very small and light, minimal, but high quality components. And partly, it's great to have small boxes. We like conserving space, but also partly because the moment we were getting into, producing anything, manufacturing anything, it sort of felt like, well, of all the times to get into that right now, the idea of putting more stuff out into the world feels a little bit tenuous. So let's make sure we're at least doing it right. That's always a process. That's something that we, will continue to work on. Doing it right looks like a lot of different things. And but I'll tell you a little bit about what we did for this game. So Mantis Falls, I'm going to show you our original trailer way before we did our Kickstarter. This prototype component that you'll hear my lovely voice narrating here, and you can get a sense for kind of the game.
Mantis Falls is a sometimes cooperative game of hidden roles, trust building, strategy, deduction, and betrayal for 2 to 3 players. Players are placed on the dark film noir roads of Mantis Falls. As witnesses hunted for their information, players work to survive the night and escape town alive. Players face dangerous events at every turn and respond to them together, but in secret, making hidden and intricate strategic plays with their cards. Players must often trust and rely on one another, as successful cooperation may be the only way to survive. But this trust is fragile, as not all players may be as they seem. Mantis Falls, a game of trust. Like life, a cooperative game that's only really cooperative. Sometimes.
Oh, I see if I can get that to stop. All right. So by the way, that music that's in the background of the film, that's also music that Adrian composed for Mantis Falls as part of the soundtrack that goes with the game. So the idea behind Mantis Falls, Adrian and I were raising young kids, and it was just the two of us. A lot of time spent playing 2-player games. My kids were going to bed really early, and we couldn't find a lot of games that felt like they were quite right for us. When we were playing any cooperative games, we had that sort of alpha player problem. The quarterbacking kind of thing, where one person would be kind of out of it and tired, and the other one would be like, okay, so we're going to do this and this and this, and not in a negative way. Like we're both glad to take over the reins at times, but it felt like I didn't have to be fully in it if I was tired, and the same with him. And then you know, we would play competitive games where it just sort of felt like, so like multiplayer solitaire, you know, like we were all doing our own things, and then we tally up our points at the end and compare. And so what we really wanted was something that was really highly immersive and interactive. And so we, you know, kept sorting through all these games, trying to find something. We really liked the hidden traitor genre, although we wanted something that was more strategic, more along the lines of Battlestar Galactica, for example, in terms of like depth or strategy. And we, I got a call from Adrian one night, really late one night, and he was just like, I have this idea for a game. It's going to be like a hidden traitor game, but sometimes it's a hidden traitor game. Sometimes it's actually two good guys and they're together, and sometimes there's a bad guy. And so that was sort of the birth of, he created an entire prototype. Before I even saw him again, we were long distance at the time. And when I saw him and I played the prototype, I thought immediately, just, this is the best game I've ever played. And I can say that because I didn't say. So I had a great time playing it. I was like, immediately, you know, I had gone to art school, I could do the art for this. And we started on about a 5-year journey of making this game. And yeah, the big goal was cooperative and avoid the alpha player problem, competitive and keep the interaction. But then also that deduction, that hidden traitor deception game that has real challenges where you're not voting yes, no, you're having to craft an intricate betrayal if you're going to betray somebody. So here's the general idea. You're in this dark mob ruled town of Mantis Falls in the 1940s. You've seen something that was not meant to be seen. You're trying to get out. And you know of somebody else who's going to make this dangerous journey with you. But you're not entirely sure that that person is who they say they are. Maybe they're a witness, but also maybe they're here specifically to kill you. This is obviously a 14 and up game. It's not specifically gory or violent. Like there's no images of violence per se, but it does discuss. It has guns and knives and assassins and all of that, and discusses killing people. So 14 and up. So each game may have only witnesses. In that case, you have to all survive together. You have to be cooperative and sharing and generous and keep the other person alive, or else you lose the game as well. If there's an assassin, then that person is going to seem like a witness at first, but then really be waiting for this right moment to start coming for you. So during the walk through Mantis Falls, you take these events, and I'm going to grab a spotlight real quick. You take these events. Every player's turn, you take an event and you respond to them together. You collect allies, so these get collected in sets, and they help you, in this case, increasing your hand size. You get tools that stay with you, things that give you enduring benefits, and then you also have things that give you enduring detriments. So afflictions that will, for example, immediately end all cooperative play. So the players make coordinated plays on every single turn. There's not downtime. You are always in a turn with somebody, and you have to strategize and communicate with each other because much of your play depends on the other person. Some cards can only be played if both players are playing them, and you have to both say that you have that in your hand, which is a scary thing to say, and agree to play it. At the same time, though, you're defending against this threat, this possible betrayal, and the decaying trust that we have intentionally crafted into the game. So these are the roads. You can see you start here at the Sunset Diner, walk through the road all the way until the end of the road. These get flipped over one at a time. So as soon as you step forward, you can always see one road ahead of you, but you don't get the whole road illuminated for you. And so on each turn, you get the choice. You can step or not. And That's easy at first. Everyone's always assuming that they're witnesses and they're trying to get to the end, and the roads are not terribly dangerous at the beginning, but then as it gets darker, they become more dangerous. But the big factor is that there are these phones all over. As you can imagine, in a hidden traitor game, usually the betrayer is outnumbered, which is why they don't come out and reveal themselves right away. In this case, they're not. In a 2-player game, the betrayer is not outnumbered. And so we had to create a mechanic that basically made them feel as though they were outnumbered. So it just didn't just devolve into a gunfight on the first street. And so what that looks like is a card called Call in a Hit that every player gets at the beginning of the game, but the true effect can only be used by a witness. It will essentially deal a whole host of damage, enough to kill somebody all at once to the other player. Now, if I were a witness and Scott, who's I'm going to pretend is my co-player, if Scott were also a witness and I played it against him, I would end the game. Because I
wouldn't do that though, because I'm not.
I wouldn't do that. No,
I'm never.
I'd be more trusting than that. But if I used Call in a Hit against him, then I would end the game because he turns out he was a witness too, and now I've just lost for myself. But if he's actually an assassin, then I win. So he's going to be crafty and he's going to pretend that he's not an assassin until this is no longer a threat. So what that means is either getting that card out of my hand, stepping away from a phone, or if Scott's really gung-ho about it, he can cut off all the phone lines all around town. And that will leave me defenseless and alone.
I can definitely say, and I told Julie this, my first game that I played was a 2-player game. And as always, as a gamer, we like to think that we're always the best at the games we love, right? So I'm like, I'm great at hidden rolls, so I'll be fine with this. And I tipped my hat way too soon, and it did not end well for the assassin, who was me. So we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I am clearly the less adept liar of the two of us, but I've come up with my own specific lying strategies for when I'm the assassin. So here we have the events that you draw. Every time you begin your turn, you can choose to step or not, but then you always draw an event no matter what. If you get one of these scene events, that gets placed down in front of all of the other players and they all get to see it. So 2 or 3 players, everyone gets to see it. If you get an unseen event, you hold it up in front of you, never show it to any of the other players, not even at discard. So nobody will ever see what this card actually says. You can be dishonest about that card within parameters. You eventually do have to, process it accurately. And that doesn't mean that you have to ever reveal exactly what the card said. So in this case, processing it accurately, this is an enemy with a health of 6. If we don't do 6 wounds to this person, receive wounds, your yellow number to each player. So if we go back and look at that road, if I was standing here, my yellow number is 2. So that means each of us are going to take 2 wounds. So at the end of this, I don't have to tell you that this was a 6 health. I don't have to tell you that this said 2 wounds to each of us. I can say that it said 4 wounds divided as I choose, or I can say that this was a health of 2 and try and get some of your good cards out of your hand. At the end, you'll realize potentially that I've been lying, but maybe you won't. Like this one, this health of 1, if this were an unseen event, and we do have an unseen equivalent of it, then I might tell you that this had a health of 4, making you believe that you couldn't defeat it even if you wanted to. I don't have to tell you that it had a health of 1. At the end, I get to divide four wounds as I choose. Or I can say that all these 4 wounds were to you. I still did what the card said. I divided 4 wounds, but I didn't have to say how those actions came about exactly. Witnesses will use this, this kind of lying to their benefit too. So let's say this was an unseen card that said 4 wounds to me. I might say that it's 4 wounds divided as I choose so that you will be more likely to help me. So action cards are how you respond to events and to each other and strengthen yourself throughout the game. They're the heart of the core of the strategy of Mantis Falls. So action cards have a suit right here, and there are 6 suits in the game of Mantis Falls. You can play as many cards of the same suit at the same time as you like. And so as you can see, this duck will let you move forward depending on where you are in the road. It lets you move forward either 3, 2, or 1 roads. And then if you end up in front of the other player, you're going to sling a wound back at them. That's the duck kind of idea. And then the advantage played right after it. If you end up far enough ahead, you also get to heal 2 wounds for yourself. So if I play this one and then this one, I might get to move and then heal. So this creates this strategic combination effect out of your cards. But our cards are always played face down. So whenever I'm ready to make my play, I would put my 2 cards, my duck and my advantage, face down so that Scott doesn't know what I have. And then Scott, his cards, and I wouldn't know what he's doing. He wouldn't know what I'm doing. And that little bit of secrecy while he's still trying to make his decision. Imagine I put down 4 cards. Then he might really think, gosh, you've been saving everything for this one moment, haven't you? What are you doing right now? Allies are a set collection mechanic. So this is something when I make phone calls, or there's a card called Whispers. If you get far enough from the other player, you can kind of whisper at somebody in the alley and make some friends. So these allies will give you enduring benefits, but only if you complete all of them. And then the big thing is the roles. So these roles will determine everything about your intentions in the game. Obviously, if you are an assassin, you maybe have no intention to get to the end of the road at all. Another bit of hidden information that's only hidden in the slightly more advanced variant. So we sort of split up the game into several different tiers of difficulty. We started with a base game that's much simpler for people to understand so that they can get accustomed to the types of cards that are available to them. And then our next tier up is Full Circle, which is the game as we designed it. Full Circle actually includes multiple different characters. So in the normal base game, everybody is something called an Urbanite. And the Urbanite just has a health of 8. And that's nothing special about it. But in the Full Circle, everyone has a different character, and that is placed face down, so nobody knows exactly what it takes to kill you. So, for example, the doctor can take less wounds, but has a greater ability to heal themselves when they're at the brink of death. And the opposite for the pugilist, the boxer can take more wounds, but is not quite as capable of healing when the chips are down. And then the even more advanced variant is Under the Rose. And Under the Rose, once you get really accustomed to the game, you know the cards like the back of your hand, you've played many times. This gives you a brand new series of actions that you can take. But one of the more intriguing things that it does is let you pull cards out of the deck and hide them. So for example, let's say Scott and I have been playing for years and or not even years, but many, many times. And I know that he really favors a particular strategy, and he likes to use this card called Ricochet, which bounces the wounds that I'm directing to him back at me. So I might use this system to go into the deck to pull out the Ricochet. And now that card becomes an asset to me. I place it face down under a little wooden rose, and I can then redeem those cards and put them back into the deck and get points for them. 1 point for any card that stays face down, so I never have to show Scott that I took his Ricochet. 3 points for any card that's 2 cards that are face up, and 6 points for any 3 of the same suit that are face up. And
I should always trust you though, right? You're never gonna,
yeah.
You're not gonna backstab me.
And then I can use that to do all of these horrible things. I can deal wounds to the opposition, but I can also hurt him in various different ways. But then at the end, I have to pay off this person. They won't let me leave Mantis Falls without paying them off. So I can get all the way to the end. Scott and I could both be witnesses. We can get all the way to the end, and we still need to collect enough cards from the deck and use them as currency to pay off this person at the very end. So this is a just a 6-card mechanic, or 6-card module that we added onto the game because we've been playing it for 5 years. And we played the base or the Full Circle game all the time, and have still never gotten sick of it. but we're just curious what more we could bring to the table in Mantis Falls, and what we could do with a small set of cards, and came up with this, which is now our default game. But it is it's just an option for players who get very invested in the game and want a little bit more.
Yeah, I think it's good for retailers to know that when Julie's mentioning modules, these are included in the game itself.
Yes.
So in this one box, you have the base game, then you have the expansion with the full circle, and then you have the expansion of Under the Rose. And you may have seen it on a couple of the previous slides, but there's very distinct and clear markers on the cards to allow you to separate them. So like that circle up there is for the full circle. So as a player, whether you're wanting to mix and match things or you're wanting to keep things separate, it keeps it really, really simple. And it's all in this one box for $34.99. You don't have to buy the base game at $34.99, then go buy like a $9.99 expansion or a module or anything like that. It's all included with the base game, which is awesome.
And that includes also a module that allows for 3 players. So in the 3-player version, you walk in rotating pairs. And the third person is what we call a bystander. So what that would mean is if Scott and his wife were playing a turn together, and they were both in the turn, I can't, as the bystander, be hurt by anything in that turn, but Scott can play cards that will loop me in, that will let me make decisions for him to influence their turn. So he can play, for example, a card that comes with a triad expansion or a module, a marionette, which will let me play a card on his play as though he played it himself. So I get to kind of pull the strings. I could make him kill his wife. I could make him kill himself. But I could also help him and save him if I really thought that we were in it together.
I was going to say, and you notice that she says bystander, not innocent bystander, right?
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
a big difference between the two.
Yeah, one of my favorites is being an assassin and then winning the game by making one of the witnesses kill one of the other witnesses. Yeah, well, as the assassin is really just for any witness to die. And that's one way that you can do it, but it's pretty brutal. So for us, for Adrian and myself, even though this sounds like a dark game, that sounds also like it could be quite contentious if people are not into lying to each other. The purpose of this game wasn't really for it to be dark and awful. The idea was that when you're playing a cooperative game like Pandemic, you start by knowing everyone's on the same team, right, on the same side. But in real life, you almost never get to really know that about anybody in your life. There's always this feeling a little bit that you're alone in things. And so we wanted to bring that to a game where you're hopeful, you want it to be the two of you want to trust somebody, but you also understand that there's always a little bit of something that you feel like you have to hold back. And that's sort of the tension of this. And then when you do win together, it feels like a true victory, because it wasn't just a victory in the game, you strategized and everything. It was actually a victory of your being able to overcome your own distrust of your partner, taking a leap of faith, even though you thought you might have lost the game if you did it that way. And the feeling of facing things alone and together at the same time. That's why we call it the game of trust and not the game of betrayal. It was a little bit of a counterpoint to the darkness in Mantis Falls.
And I'll tell you, one of the most interesting things to me is the game definitely has what I call an experience method, in that you play the game once, you understand how it works, you get it under your belt, and then you play it again. And even if you try to play the same roles, the same way, the same ideas, you're going to discover things where, like Julie mentioned earlier, about you have these unseen events, and you have the opportunity to not just be 100% truthful if you're a witness or 100% untruthful if you're an assassin, but you can do things on either side of that table to pull information and glean information from the person you're playing with. And the thing that's really kind of struck me as the most interesting piece of the experience of playing this game is that if you play multiple times in a row, and you will, because the first time we played, it only took us about maybe 20, 25 minutes to play our first game. So we were immediately like, okay, let's do this again, right? It's one of those like addictive style kind of gameplay things. But as you play multiple times in a row, you end up in this situation where maybe one person's been the assassin like 2 or 3 times in a row, and suddenly everyone's like, okay, we know you're the assassin, let's get started. And you're like, no, I'm not, like, really, literally this time I'm not, right? And you get these moments where it's like, well, you did this 2 games ago, and you're like, yeah, but that doesn't matter this game. No, it matters this game, right?
Yeah, there's definitely, I feel that with Adrian too, where we'll be witnesses together and we'll have this like stunning witness victory, and I'll feel so proud of us, and like it feels like a genuine feat of cooperation. And then the next game I'm like, okay, let's do that again, and it'll turn out that one of us is the assassin, and it's like, well, shoot, I was a little over trusting on that one, huh? Because I wanted really that cooperative victory.
The other thing that I think is really important to bring out is that, you know, most of you who know my past, I was involved pretty heavily with Sheriff of Nottingham when I was the Vice President of Business Development with Arcane Wonders. And we had a load of fun making that game in terms of a pure bluffing game, and being able to, you know, look someone dead in the eye and completely lie your way through the gate. And it was just super fun. But the thing that I always found with a lot of the hidden trader games is that there's some people who may not feel comfortable being a trader, or there's some people who may not be comfortable just not being 100% truthful. And this game offers you so many opportunities because only you know what's happening with you. You know your role, you know what your goal is, you know what you're trying to do. You can glean things, you can suspect things from your opponent, but there are so many good opportunities to be someone who truthfully likes to play honest and likes to be as, you know, fair and open as possible with your fellow gamers, and still be a good assassin, and still be able to successfully do what your goals are as the assassin, to eliminate a witness, which is really cool. So
yeah, and one of the ways that we designed it too is that, like, let's say you get caught in a lie. In a lot of games, that's a game ender. It's like, okay, yeah, yep, you're the you know, the Hitler of the
you're the Cylon.
Yeah, you're the Cylon. Yeah. We once played a game where I accidentally dealt 3 Cylons to 4 players, by the way, and it was one of my favorite games of Battlestar Galactica. Our poor little daughter, only 10 years old. It's like, what's happening? Why is everybody blaming me? She was the only one who wasn't a Cylon. Anyway, but we designed the game specifically so that when you got caught in a lie, you almost invariably could say you were lying because you were worried the other person was an assassin, which does happen. Witnesses lie too, to, you know, protect what they have in their hand. Like that same card, Ricochet, that I was talking about, is an incredibly powerful card. It's something that I would keep if I were a witness, because what if it turns out Scott's an assassin? So let's say I'm lying and I don't want him to know I have that in my hand, and he finds out anyway. I can defensively say I didn't want him to know because what if he's an assassin? But as an assassin, if I had that card, I could say the same thing. I'm a witness and I didn't want you to know I have that card because I'm an assassin. So there's a lot of ability to keep going through a lie. Even if let's say I attack you, I could deal wounds to you and say I'm doing it because I'm convinced you're an assassin. I mean, I've done that before as an assassin, and I've come back from it, and I've dealt wounds to somebody, and then we just keep going about our merry way because they feel like they've successfully convinced me that they were good. So there's a lot more to lying in this game than there would be in a lot of other games where it's very clear cut what your role is. You would never do this if you were a witness, for example. So I'll go through a little bit about the components that come in the box. So the first one, we made almost everything card-based in this game, partly because we're carbon neutral and we're trying to stay really light, and it also makes for a small box. We got the same cards. We're actually using the same manufacturer as Awakened Realms. And so we got the same card quality as Ethan Fields and Nemesis and all of those. It's a thick, so you asked Carrie, yeah. Hi, Carrie, by the way. We've communicated by email. So this is the retail edition. The Kickstarter edition was a limited time just for Kickstarter. And then once those are out, and everything else is retail edition. These cards are nice, really thick cardstock, and you can see that they printed really lovely. We're really pleased with how everything came out. We have them set up instead of on a board. we put them on a play mat, which is made of microfiber, which is extremely soft and also very light and foldable. So it folds into a nice small box. Our screen printed meeples, they're very, very tiny. They're about the height of a quarter. They have tricolor screen printing on them, or not, sorry, not screen printing, UV printing. Our wooden buttons and wooden roses. So same idea, just painted wood. The buttons were actually pretty interesting. Like when we were first prototyping games, we had no idea what we were doing. We were ordering like boxes off of Zazzle and things. We didn't even know we could get, you know, real prototypes of board game boxes. We used buttons as our health markers and people loved them. Overwhelmingly, everybody said that the buttons were so creepy and cool and really set a scene. So we decided that we would recreate that in the final version. These are custom wooden buttons. These bags, so these have actually black tassels and not white, but otherwise all of our cards fit into bags. And one of the reasons is that we very strongly recommend that players sleeve this game. And I know people can be resistant to sleeves. This is a game of an enormous amount of hidden information that is in pretty much every deck of the game. It's not just your roles or your character. It's also, you know, where the phones are on the road, what cards you have in your hand, which cards you can get when there's special cards you can get at the end of the road. And throughout the night, special, more powerful midnight suit cards. And you need to know, if you knew which ones were there, it would spoil some of the mystery of the game. You could, with one or two poorly marked cards, you could really mess with the strategy. And so we wanted those bags to be available so that people could store them. And also because it feels a little bit more thematic, it goes with the buttons too. Our manual, nice big full box manual. And then our linen wrapped box, I drew this map for the inside of the box that represents, this is Manus Falls. We're planning to do more things in this world because I went through, I actually know all of the buildings in this whole town, designed the whole thing. And so we have great plans for this city, but wanted people to really feel the world building of it, but without taking away some of the like excitement and mystery and sort of imagination of it. So, you know, we built the world, everything's in silhouettes. You get to see aspects of the road, but we don't have specific like mafia characters really that you interact with, because we want that stuff to sort of exist in your own mind. And then card sleeves. So these are sleeve kings. Every game comes with 220 card sleeves so that you can protect your cards. MSRP is $34.99. Our minimum advertised price is 10% off, case of 5 units, and we're hoping, you know, the shipping catastrophe as it is, that they'll be available in November 2021.
Everything's on time and under budget in shipping right now. It's not a problem. Yeah, shipping has been crazy, for lack of a better phrase.
Yes, yeah, it's been an exciting ride for a first-time publisher. So far we've had some pretty great reception. We've been very, very fortunate. We have an 8.5 on Board Game Geek with, I think it's almost 55, 60 ratings, which for, you know, an unpublished, not yet available game is pretty great. So we've won some awards. So we got selected for the PAX Showcase, which was probably our biggest one so far. It was gigantic to be out in the middle of like 60,000 people, and it was right before COVID, so we managed to get in there right before all of the lockdowns. Just last weekend we got selected as Best in Show for the Southern Fried Gaming Expo here in Atlanta. Big German reviewer gave us their gold award, and he was the one who also gave us this nice quote, "A masterwork of great gamecraft," which is probably the greatest compliment we ever could have been given. One of our reviewers gave us an accepted seal, and indicated international board and video game design award nominated us for Game of the Year. And then the Connecticut Festival of Indie Games is coming up in a few weeks, and they've selected us as one of their nominees as well. We've gotten some great reviews. Quackalope, Geek Dad, Zatu Games, all saying very positive things for us. We sent the game to a lot of much smaller reviewers too. That's one of our big goals was, you know, we're a small publisher. We want to support small people in the industry. If you're a small reviewer, we were willing to, you know, ship a game out to you, even if, you know, you have an audience of 500 people or something, that's fine. We want to help lift up other voices, and we feel the same about small businesses. So we've had great fortune with making a lot of connections with people around the industry. So far, we've had a pretty good retailer, I guess, community. And this is from our Kickstarter. These are the retailers that we connected with, Carrie and Sean. I'm sure you can find yourselves among the dots in here. But that's one of the things we're really hoping to get more of. We do foresee a pretty good international presence out of this. We have 3 different languages coming out along with this run. We have distribution all throughout Australia, and we have more languages coming. We're just signing our deal with Lucky Duck Games, which is incredible, to do worldwide English, not English language, foreign language. So they're going to do stuff for Polish and French and all of that. So we anticipate that there will be a lot going on worldwide for Manus Falls. One of the places that we really want to focus our energy, though, is supporting retailers at home and making sure that our dream was always that we could walk into a retail store to buy games and see our game up there. And so that's what we're sort of most excited about. So to that end, we have a website to support retailers. So our retailer website includes some of our sort of target markets, things that you can talk to, like points that you can use, including our sell sheet when talking to customers, press assets. So if you wanted to create your own, advertisement or anything like that, all of that's available. That includes our, downloadable promotional video, how to play video, and we're going to be updating those with our new components very shortly. Other promotional images, which includes like the award laurels, the testimonials, the company logo, all of that stuff is available to you. And then also our soundtrack. We are more than comfortable with you guys. If you ever host an event or do anything else, related to Manus Falls, you're free to use this soundtrack in your store or, in any way that will help you sell the game. Spanish, yes. So Julio, you asked about Spanish. I don't think that we have Spanish in Central America right now, but we do have a Spanish partner. That is correct. Bumblebee Interactive in Spain, but I don't think that they are in the Americas, at least not yet. Yeah, we're gonna have demo copies available to you. So you just contact us and we'll make sure to get you a demo copy. And then also, if you want a personal demonstration, if you actually just want to walk through the game with us, I'm glad to set up a time, and we can set it up on Tabletop Simulator, and I can kind of walk you through the play of the game. You can play with me. Glad to set that up. If you're near me, I'm glad to come out to the store and do a demo with you physically in the store as well. We also, so I made this again pre-campaign, which was an enormous amount of work that I wish we'd had our final components for that. But this is a how to play video, and my hair was shorter.
If you're playing the game as a witness, you have a 50% chance the other players.
So again, we're going to be reproducing this with the new components, but this is just a 9-minute video that explains. So I think Scott can get you the link to the retail site, Derek. So this explains how the game is played, and we're going to have that up for the final components before the games are released. So that's pretty much everything. If you have any questions, I'm really glad to answer them. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to listen and hear about Manus Falls. And yeah. Anything else I should have included, Scott?
No, that's quite a bit. Actually, we did add the retailer resource page to our product listing on gtsdistribution.com. So if you search Mantis Falls, there will be a nice big bright blue link at the bottom. It says retailer resource page. So you'll be able to get there. That'll help you get in contact with Julie if you want to get a demo unit or a display unit. This is a game that, just so everybody knows, I love these bags. These are one of the most tactile, like cloth-like bags that when you feel them and pick them up, you're like, oh yeah, okay, this is my game, I own it. If you have these on display, this is a really cool thing. I know a lot of retailers, depending on where you are in the country, some people are able to have in-store gameplay and demos. Some are just still doing display units and things like that. Displaying this game is fabulous because, as you can see, the artwork is very unique. It's very catching. The thing that I like, and Julie mentioned this a couple of times about how they wanted to have things like mob bosses and the atmosphere and things like that be in your head or in your own discussions with the players around the table. That's what happens. And it's really cool to see because, well, people will tell you I'm a role-playing gamer or I'm not a role-playing gamer. I'm a big believer that everyone is a gamer just in general, and the act of role-playing just becomes this social experiment while you're playing a game together. And I think it's really cool that, like, when one of the allies gets taken, it's all silhouette. So you almost tend to form your own story in your head. And as you obtain those people, you kind of extend that story to the other people at the table. And you're like, oh, I got Mr. Edwards, who was just off doing this, and now he's back, here helping me, and this is what we're going to do. And, if some of those allies may have a really, really good benefit for a witness, some of those allies may have a really good benefit for an assassin. And it may be one of those moments where you're like, well, wait a minute, why did you take that ally? Are you with me? Are you against me? Or what's happening here? And you get this like long story, right? Of, oh, no, Mr. Edwards and I have a longtime friends. Like, we've known each other for a very long time. We were in the war together. It's tremendous. Don't worry about this, right? So it's a really, really unique experience to see that happen. And I think that is probably going to happen a lot if you have the game on display, where people are going to see these silhouetted characters and they're going to immediately see themselves in that role or picture people they know in that roles, which is really awesome. So Julio, you just asked, what if more players want to play? That is a great question. This game is specifically designed for 2 to 3 players. And given the environment that we are in right now, where, again, we're having this spike in Delta and we're not sure what may happen and things may, drastically change even in the next few weeks, there's a really good opportunity, I think, leading into the holidays and looking at people who will want 2 or 3 player type games to be more, socially distanced from larger game groups. I think that's going to be a huge opportunity for something like this. And again, when you're talking about uniqueness, if you have players that play Battlestar Galactica or a lot of the different, hidden trader mechanic games, it's a great opportunity to show them, hey, you don't need to get 7 or 8 people together. You can have the same type of experience with that hidden mechanic, but do it in a completely new experience in a different way with this game, which is going to be really cool. This, Julie showed me on Friday. I love this. I'll let her explain this. This is really cool.
So one of the things that we did, we had a lot of downtime because of manufacturing delays and freight delays and all of that kind of stuff. And so one of the things that we'd always wanted to do was sort of like write down all of our thoughts about all the cards, how they get played, why we designed them, how to use them as an assassin, how to use them as a witness. So this goes through every action card that's in Mantis Falls and talks about the relative strengths, weaknesses, when you might find them beneficial. So it has a usefulness rating, which I think if I can get my spotlight back. So usefulness ratings are right here on a scale of 1 to 5. This is available online. So you can send any of your customers to our website and we'll have this not just in this format, but in a searchable format so that they can really quickly, go, so, oh, like I have this card, let me see what kind of strategy there is for it. We created it late enough in the game that we couldn't include it in the final retail copy, and so we're hoping to include it in future expansions as a printed component. But this right now exists here for any player to use to understand their strategy a bit better, and has been, I think, quite helpful in understanding the complex nuances of how each card can be used. And so there's, I think there's, yeah, here, if you're an assassin with the marionette, if you're an assassin bystander. So this is that marionette card that I was talking about, where you can put a card on the other player's action. As the bystander, you can use this card to kill another player without even being in the turn. So it just goes through and describes every bit of strategy we ever thought about when creating these cards. And again, it's not at all necessary to play the game. Players can absolutely play without this, but if they are wanting more information or wanting deeper strategy, this is always available to help understand possibilities for you. And then just has little, excerpts on like the statistics, how often are there roads, what are the stoplight numbers on all of these cards, how you best go about killing somebody if you need to. So
things like that are really cool to me because, you're world building, right? Like you talked about how you had spent the time researching things about, city planning and how to lay out the map on the inside of the box and everything. And this is not just hey, we made a good game and it's doing really well and we're happy. Like there's many more plans for Mantis Falls as a city as its own. I did actually look it up because one of our sales reps actually asked if Mantis Falls was based on a real city or was a real city. There is no city in America yet that's named Mantis Falls. So that may be your long-term goal, is to actually like find a city to adopt the name down the road. You never know, right?
Well, to be candid, so we chose our company phone number, used Google Voice to pick a phone number in Colorado Springs.
Oh, nice.
There are, so one of the things that we're trying to do, as a little bit of a preview to people who are watching, is incorporate some little Easter eggs throughout the game so people can feel like this is a real place that they can access in the real world a little bit. And so our phone number is a Colorado phone number that's in sort of the fictional Mantis Falls city. And we're trying to kind of slow roll this feeling that it's it kind of infects for more in your life than just this one.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
And if you, Julio, you asked about wanting to play for more players. That is something that we got a request for, 4 and 5 player options and stuff. We're entertaining that for our expansion that we're designing, finding unique and interesting ways to incorporate those players. It was originally designed very small, partly because as you get larger, you tend to get this sort of like witch hunt dynamic in a lot of hidden role games where it's like, oh, it's him, go get him, boys. Like, just like, stick all the other players on this person and it's sort of like the most charismatic personality wins. And we wanted it to feel more intimate than that, where like, if it's just the 2 of you, there's nobody else to talk to say like, do you think it's him? And if it's 3 of you, then the person that you're talking to and saying like, do you think it's him, could be the assassin. So it really feels like you're alone. And that was by intention to make it a much more alarming feeling to be close with somebody. There's no strength in numbers. There's no literal strength in numbers. There's a card called strength in numbers in our game. But anyway, that was the intention.
That's awesome. And Julio, you asked earlier about being able to purchase in Central America. Yes, Julie and I talked about actually just last week. So yeah, if you do want to pre-order this for Central America, definitely feel free, contact your sales rep, or you can do that online via the GTS distribution website, and we'll get that set up for you. I did put the part number into the beginning of chat as well, but it's really easy. You can just go to gtsdistribution.com and search Mantis Falls. The video that you saw at the beginning of this is actually on the product page as well, which is also hosted on YouTube, of course. So if you want to, download that or, share it with your staff or even put it on any kind of digital signage or anything like that as like a preview commercial for something that, people can pre-order in your stores, then that's a great idea as well. But, this is a very happy intersection for me, and it's rare because I constantly tell everybody internally at GTS, I tend to not look for games that just I like, because what I like doesn't always sell for all of you as the retailers. My job is to work with partners and put games into our catalog that are going to be successful for you at the retail level. So like I've always said, there's many very simple black and white card games that may not be super, super fun to me personally, but I wish I had invented them because, man, they sell like crazy. So this is a really happy intersection for me where it's a game that I feel very strong about the partner and Julie and her partner as a company. I feel strong about the game itself from a uniqueness perspective and kind of how it sits in the marketplace. And then on top of it, after playing it 8 times now, in fact, on Friday when we had our sales webinar with our internal team, I had told Julie I'd played it 7 times, and I played it again over the weekend. It's a very addicting game, and it's something that's very, very fun. Like Julio mentioned at the beginning, very small shelf presence for the box size. It's very easy to carry around with you in your backpack. My family and I actually took a day trip to St. Louis this weekend, and my wife and I brought it with us. And after the kids went to bed on Saturday night, that's what we played. So we not only had to act as an assassin and a witness, we had to do so very quietly because they were in the hotel room with us. So it was kind of funny. But yeah, no, I hope you guys really enjoyed this. I hope you got a lot of good information from it. Obviously, if you have any additional questions, whether you're here live or whether you're watching on YouTube, you can reach out to Julie through Distant Rabbit Games, or you can reach out to me. My email is just smorris@gtsdistribution.com. By no means, as always, is this a one and done. Julie, as you expand Mantis Falls, we're looking forward to more and having you back on to talk about some more as well. Julio said, I really look forward to this one. Yeah, I hope it's going to go very well for everyone. It's very, very cool. So, all right, for everyone here live, again, thank you so much for taking your time. If you are watching via recording on YouTube, please feel free to leave a question or a comment below. We'll be happy to answer any questions you have. Also, feel free to like the video, subscribe to the channel so you can get notifications about when new webinars are put up. In each of our webinar descriptions as well on YouTube, there is a link for pre-registration. All you have to do is register once and you will get notified of when we have new webinars coming up. But Julie, thank you again as well. Really appreciate you taking the time to come introduce yourself and the game and the company to the retailers. And we're looking forward to much, much more from you guys.
Thank you. It's good to be
awesome. Here. Everyone have a great week in your stores. Thanks so much. Take care.